And we're back, guys. The dudes of horror. I'm Wormboy.
Damien.
And Toots.
Today we're gonna we have a request on one of our previous videos. A gentleman named Lalo Landa. He requested we review Pan's Labyrinth, or what was the other movie he said?
And Devil's Backbone.
Yeah, but today we're reviewing Pan's Labyrinth. It's a film from 2003, I believe.
2006.
2006. Sorry, but it's pretty much. It's gonna have spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie, which if you haven't, we're disappointed in you.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be reviewing that spoiler free, and I guess what do you guys think?
I really enjoyed the film. Actually, I saw it again last night. I think the first time I saw it was probably a year or two after it came out from theaters. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on DVD. But I really enjoyed it then. It has a very bittersweet ending to it. It's sad, but it's also very mystical because there's a lot of fantasy and magic in it. And then I rewatched it again last night. And yeah, it still kind of chokes you up. At least for me, it still kind of chokes me up a little bit. You know, I think it's a great movie. The directing, the writing, the producing, all by Guillermo del Toro. He did a great job, and so did the actors and actresses, and the the makeup effects and the practical effects. The only thing, and I mentioned it before, the only thing that I can't really hold it against the movie is that the CG effects for me are kind of dated because they were back in the mid-2000s. They're nowhere near as bad as the CG effects from like late 90s and early 2000s, like American Werewolf in Paris and things like that. Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, these CG effects are okay. To me, they don't hold up as well, but it's not something that you could really hold against the movie.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, I think the CG effects are good, but what I agree with you, Toots, is where the movie still holds up.
Oh.
Like, I remember seeing it when it first came out. I didn't see it in the theaters, but like it was still interesting. I was still like involved in it. I was like, oh man, like it was emotional, entertaining, and suspenseful.
Yeah, those same emotions I felt last night were the same ones I felt when I first saw it. Like I still had a little like lump in my throat.
Yeah, and the way that Guillermo del Toro does this, I mean, he does it so good that he keeps you interested in the story, and he adds this horror element to it, and it just keeps it going. The contrast between the war going on and the fantasy world that Ophelia is going through was really good contrast, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Damien, your thoughts?
Everybody got quiet. Well, I never saw this in the theaters because I've always been a fan of Guillermo del Toro. Like every movie I've ever seen by him, he's never let me down. And I like fantasy movies like this too. Like I like Jim Henson's Labyrinth, Neverending Story, like all those like from the 80s.
Like Dark Crystal.
Yeah, the list goes on. So I was kind of apprehensive because I didn't want it to be, because I was building it up in my head and I didn't want it to like let me down. So I didn't see it in theaters, but when I did see it finally like at home, it was different from what I expected, but it was still like really good, like a really outstanding horror fantasy movie, and it ties into like accurate historical facts about the Spanish Civil War, or this movie takes place just in the wake of the Spanish Civil War, and that part of the movie is like very accurate.
Yeah, and then speaking of the war, I mean, the Captain Vidal, I mean,
what a prick.
He's an ass. I was just like, wow, like the things he did. I was like, this can traumatize a kid watching this.
Yeah, he's very evil.
But
He's very evil.
I was just like, when is he gonna get his? You know, but at the same time, I was like, he'll get it eventually.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
The
when we
thing
get to the spoilers.
with the characters, like, you don't just get involved with one. Like, at least not for me. Like, I got involved with Ophelia's character, with the Fawn, even with Captain Vidal. I was like, what's gonna happen next? The doctor was pretty cool, and Mercedes, the housekeeper. I was like, man, all these different stories, but they all blended it so well. I think it did. It's a really good movie.
But I like that idea of like the servants that are serving the soldiers on the nationalist side are actually like working with the rebel insurgents that are hiding out in the woods, and they're doing it like right under everybody's noses because they don't even really see the women in particular. They don't even really see them as people. Like they're just, especially the captain. He's just like a total bastard.
Yeah,
which is actually kind of his undoing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what pretty much lands him.
I like that plot point in the movie, like how they're doing all of that. There's the doctor also. You know, they're sneaking supplies to the insurgents that are out in the woods and doing it like right under the nose of all the people that see themselves as the superior race, the aristocrats.
I think at one point he finds a farmer and his kid, and the soldiers tell him to come out, and like without even checking, because they're like, oh, we're hunting rabbit. Without even checking, he just hits the son and pretty much kills him with the butt of his gun, and then he shoots.
It was a bottle, huh?
Was it a bottle?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it was a bottle. But what happens? I'm like, he doesn't even ask or check thoroughly. But at the end, what happens? He finds the rabbit, and they're like, next time you better make sure you check twice. You know, something to that effect.
Yeah, because I think he was going by what the soldiers were telling him.
Right.
So if they do a shit job of checking everything, he's just gonna assume that whatever they're telling him is 100% true, which it kind of was, except they just didn't look hard enough, and they found the rabbit afterwards.
And that scene was necessary to show the brutality,
the
brutality of the captain, because
he doesn't give a shit.
he realizes when they find the dead bunny that they actually weren't lying; they were telling the truth. They weren't part of the insurgents, and they were just hunting. And he realizes he just killed 2 innocent men, and he just does not care at all.
And I thought I was gonna stop there, Damien. But what happens? He's like, "Oh, let's just make some stew out of this," and that's just adding more salt to the wound.
And you know that actually was from a real experience from Guillermo del Toro's life.
What, really?
He saw somebody get beat up with a bottle, and the bottle didn't break.
Shit.
So he put that in the movie.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't as brutal of a beating where the person actually died from the beating, but
that's where he got the influence from.
yeah.
So one of my favorite characters was actually the best character, I think, for me.
The Fawn.
The Fawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was creepy. He was like, I don't know if I trust you, and he was entertaining to me for the most part. And I know it's an animatronic for the most part, but also someone acting. So there's different scenes where he was the animatronic, and then where it was him. I forgot his name.
We have to give
Doug
a shout
Jones.
out to. We have to give a shout out to Doug Jones. This guy has been in like so many movies where he's this over the top because he's this really tall, thin, like stuntman type of guy. We were looking at IMDb last night, and he's been in like so many movies where he plays like over the top character, like covered up in makeup. And
wasn't he also in The Conjuring 2 as the? Yeah.
He was in Legion.
He was in Hellboy. He was in Hellboy 2, I think.
Yeah, he was. What's his name? Abraham.
Yeah. I mean, and he in this movie he's not only the Fawn, he's also the Pale Man. And
the Pale Man is creepy.
The Pale Man's really creepy.
Yeah.
I was just like, when is this scene gonna end? Especially when he puts his eyeballs in the pen.
I wonder if the Pale Man the entire time when he was picking up his eyes was like, ow, 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 sensitive, ow, ow, like that. they pops it in like, oh. I
That
can
was
see.
just like trademark Guillermo del Toro, like
Yeah.
the imagery that the animatronics, like you said, the practical effects that he's known for, that he just like knocks it out of the park. Like
Yeah.
that whole dining room setting where the
Mhm.
Pale Man is,
Yeah.
the Pale Man's makeup, the Doug Jones acting, like the actress that played. I think actually like the actress that played Ophelia too was like a child actress at the
She
time.
was a
Like
she's
she's
a great
grown
actor.
up. She's grown up now, but
Actress.
at that time she was like a great child actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very convincing, and especially when she messes up, and when the Pellman's there, and that part where I felt like, I'm like, why did the fairies have to be eaten by the Pellman? I was like, why did you have to eat the grape? Like,
They were trying to warn her not to eat anything.
Yeah, this is like a really R-rated version of like a child's fairy tale.
yeah.
Well, I mean, because like the whole brief synopsis of the movie is like Ophelia is this little girl that's really into fairy tales, and her father has passed away, and her mother has married this captain in the nationalist army that's being sent out to this location in the woods to
Yeah.
find these rebel patrols and these insurgents, and she gets to go on, like she discovers a fairy first,
Mhm.
right? Like, and then she finds the fawn.
Yeah, and the fairy first is like a insect of some
Yeah.
sort.
It's like a walking stick kind of.
And then she shows him a picture of the fairy that kind of molds itself to what
Mhm.
she wanted it to be,
Yeah.
and that was creepy. But I like that part where you mentioned that even though she's a child actress, that at that time, I mean, I think it was more difficult than it is now. I mean, I've never been an actor or know any actors personally, but
Mhm.
for that time and for her to do so well, I think she did a really good job.
Yeah, to sell, and we're gonna get to spoilers in a bit, but the fact that she had to sell, especially at the end, everything that happens to her,
Mhm.
like the fact that she has to sell all that, and it's just
Yeah.
like, wow, like, yeah,
It was like she was like on the same level like the Haley Joel Osment was in The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she
kind
was she was on that same level, like as a child actor
mhm.
or actress. But well, anyway, like, and then she discovers that labyrinth, like just near that cottage or wherever where the nationalist soldiers are staying in the woods,
Mhm.
and then that's where she comes across the fawn that gives her like these 3 missions, and he kind of like breaks. It's the exposition scene where he like tells her destiny,
Yeah,
like who she is, and if she accomplishes this, she'll get to go to the underworld kingdom,
yeah.
and that's where the fantasy elements start in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, basically, and I remember we were talking about it earlier, where whether the whole interaction with the fawn and the underworld and everything, like, was it all just imagination, or was it real? And I remember I pointed out that, well, the narrator is actually narrating what happened before and what's going on, which pretty much is that Ophelia is reincarnated from a princess that died, a long time ago, and then so now she has to kind of find her way back to the underworld, and through the fawn, doing these 3 missions before the full moon, arrives. So it's kind of cryptic that way. She has to complete these 3 tasks. If not, she's gonna be immortal. She's gonna stay immortal.
Yeah, she's gonna die eventually.
Yeah, and she'll get sick and she'll die, just like all of us. But if she completes these tasks, then she'll be the princess again. Yeah, and she'll go back to the underworld kingdom, and and then the fact that with an epilogue, it does talk about how it does mention that, well, she ruled for many years,
Until she got curious and wanted to go see outside, and then, well, what do you mean?
No, at the very end.
Oh,
At
okay,
the very
yeah,
end,
yeah.
where it's like, well, she ruled for many years with a kind heart and justice. So I think if it was all just imagination and it was the fact that Ophelia just read a bunch of fairy tale books,
Yeah.
then I don't think that epilogue would have occurred. It wouldn't have set up that whole kingdom, and it wouldn't have had that epilogue at the end.
Well, according to Guillermo del Toro, it was supposed to be real.
Oh.
Like, it wasn't, and he left like subtle, because all throughout the movie, like you said, it's left vague, like you're not sure, because none of the other characters are seeing any of these fantastic elements other than Ophelia. So you're starting to wonder, like, and then they establish at the very beginning, like we said, that she's really into fairy tales. So it becomes like this thing, like,
Maybe it's just in her head.
is she escaping from all these conditions that she's living in because she's experiencing like the wake of the Spanish Civil War? So is this like an escape for a child, a fantasy for a child, or is this something that's actually happening? So, and I guess it's like you said, it's up to the viewer's interpretation.
Yeah, that's what I had initially thought, but then when you mentioned that, the narrator, and then you saying that Del Toro kind of said, yes, it is. Now, okay, I understand. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, because I think if it would have just been up to interpretation and very vague, I don't think they would have. I think they would have set up the whole princess thing during the movie, and then and just to kind of like, oh, then the fawn appears, and then but they wouldn't have had the epilogue like. She would have.
There's no need for it.
Yeah, and then where it would have ended would have been rather sad. It would have been a downer ending.
Yeah, but another thing that I found kind of creepy was the mandrake root, or what's it
Oh,
called?
the magic root.
Like you put milk, fresh milk, you put it in fresh milk, and you have to put 2 drops of blood, and that's what's helping the mom feel better. But the part that I was like even more disgusted when the dad comes like, you look at this. This is what you want. Like this is under your bed. She pretty much catches.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, oh man, he's gonna kill her, or he's gonna hurt her severely or something.
Yeah, because it was like this is what reading all those books does to you.
Yeah. And then he throws it in the fire and it burns, or the mom throws it in the fire, I think. And then it burns, but that's when the mom, it gets worse.
Yeah, she was already ready to give birth. She was already pregnant, but she's also having complications. And let's just get into spoilers.
Well, I think we've
kind of already gone in there.
Yeah.
Well, this movie's like 12 years old. So.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it at this point, shame on you, and you've had time to watch it.
Yes, it's a must watch.
Yeah. So Carmen, the mother's pregnant. She has complications. She has a mandrake root. Well, not her. Ophelia puts it down there.
Puts it down there
under the bed.
The fawn was kind of like, hey, get on with your task, and then when she's like, but my mom's sick, so that's why I think he gave it to her. So like, okay, your mom's fine now. You need to come back to the Labyrinth and continue.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the part where she fails the second task. And she kind of messes it up because he's like, don't eat anything, like make sure you don't eat anything. But what she do? She eats some of the grapes, I think. And what happens?
Pale man comes to life.
Pale man comes to life and he kills 2 fairies. And the fawn finds out and he doesn't look very happy. He looks really pissed off.
I thought that was like a biblical reference to the forbidden fruit.
Yeah?
Or maybe it wasn't like intentionally that, but like. I think that was I thought the pale man was creepy, like more creepy than the fawn.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like I don't know.
I mean, the fawn was my favorite character, but the pale man takes the cake on creepiness. Yeah,
and speaking of other monsters, like the captain, like
He's
the wife is he's the wife. The mother's having complications. She has the baby, and the captain finds out that the doctor's kind of working for the insurgents, so he kills her, the one person who could potentially save her. So just but at least the captain admitted that his weakness is pride. So at least he was
aware.
At least he was aware of his shortcomings. Other than the fact that he's just a piece of shit
Yeah,
and a monster.
and then finally, I guess for me, I get some some revenge because when Mercedes cuts him.
That's the part I thought because she hides a knife in her
Like
apron,
her apron,
like in her apron, and she attacks him when he has his back turned, and I was like, she should have killed him, like.
Yeah.
But I guess then the movie wouldn't have had its villain for Act 3.
Yeah.
But it was kind of good. Like finally, someone does something to this person that's evil, you know. And I was like, oh, but he's not dead. Like, oh, he's probably gonna get worse. And but eventually things kind of fix themselves.
But he's really like inhuman monster because like they show him sewing up his own. Cause she opens up his mouth like Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah, I was thinking that yesterday.
And they show him sewing up his own.
That was good.
cheek.
Whoever did that did a good job.
Yeah, if that was CG, that CG looked good. Like that looked very convincing.
Well, I'm assuming that was CG.
Yeah.
Unless they did it on purpose. And then he drinks the liquor and he's like,
He can't take a drink for the rest of the movie. Like it causes him pain every time he tries to take a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, because if it was practical effects, I don't know how they did it, but I'm pretty sure it was CG. But yeah, once he was starting to sew himself up, I just kept thinking of, do you want to know how I got these scars? Like, I just kept thinking of that.
And one thing that I really enjoyed about the movie itself is the music. It goes well with the movie. It's not they don't overdo it. They place it in the right moments, and I think they did a good job also with that. The score.
That main theme is
like
really good. Like but I also wanted to like point out the brutality of the captain. The scene where, like with what you said, after they burn the magical root, and the doctor's tending to Ophelia's mother, and the captain tells the doctor like, if you have to choose between my wife and the baby, save the baby. Like he's all about, because he knows that it's going to be a boy. He knows he's going to have a son. So all he really cares about is like, he's going to carry my name.
Yeah.
Like my wife is expendable as long as she gives me my son. Basically is what he's saying. Like, and even when she passes away and they're having the funeral, he's just kind of standing there happy, like holding his son. Like he's like, I got what I wanted, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, that's how sick he is.
Yeah, that's how sick he is or was, and then the fact that for me the big heartbreaking thing is when he shot Ophelia, when he takes the baby and then.
But then that's kind of what saved her.
Oh yeah, it saved her in the long run, but when I first saw it, I was like, no way, like.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's it. This is not going to be one of those happy endings, you know? I was like, this is why Guillermo del Toro is good.
This isn't Disney.
Well, the thing I wanted to say, like I noticed was, you can tell this is a foreign film because of things like that. Like, it doesn't follow all those like tropes and storylines and story patterns that American audiences are accustomed to. Like, you can tell it's a foreign film.
Yeah.
Like. It's really good though, like even to an American audience, like this movie made like over $80 million.
Yeah, but I'm glad that the captain, his comeuppance pretty much was that he's gonna be forgotten, because and that's really the major thing where he steps out of the labyrinth at the end after he shoots Ophelia. He's carrying the baby, and then he knows he's screwed because all the insurgents are surrounding him.
And then he tells Mercedes, like, make sure, like, you tell him who he is, who his father is, and he's like, oh, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like he won't even know your name.
He won't even know who you are or your name. And he's like, no.
Yeah, I like the look on his
face.
face.
Like, no.
But
And then they shoot him.
And he tries to hand her his father's watch from that story that we were talking about at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, the watch meant a lot to him because it was broken, but the story went that
it was on the time that his father had died.
Yeah, he left it there for him.
And then he says he says, tell him what time, who his father was. He's talking about himself and what at what time he died.
Mm-hmm.
And she just interrupts him and says, no, like, he's not even going to know your name. He's not going to know anything about you.
He's just like, no. And that point, I was like, yes, he finally got, like, I guess what he deserved.
Which was all he really cared about in this world.
Of course.
And then I liked that. I thought he deserved that. Like, right before he died with the knowledge of, like, you're going to be forgotten.
Because it wasn't just like, you're dead. Like, he actually died without his pride and him being, like, put in that situation that he didn't want.
And that's where what I mentioned earlier was that the women that he originally saw as expendable and like, you know, they won't do anything and they're kind of invisible almost, were really the ones that kind of brought his undoing, other than his hubris, but, you know, his pride.
And under his nose too.
And right under his nose. So Ophelia managed to get the best of him. Mercedes managed to get the best of him. You know, to the point where, you know, he loses his kid, he loses his pride. You know, he has that knowledge that he's gonna die, pretty much forgotten. You know, but there was still that part of me that after he got shot in the face, and I was like, he got off easy. Like even though the major thing was that he's gonna be forgotten. So I acknowledge that, but.
Well, I think overall this movie, I give it an A+. It's really good. If it were still out right now, like I'd probably go to the movies and see it. Definitely buy it, rent it. I would buy it. I mean, I bought it myself on the PlayStation Network because I was like, this is a movie I'll buy. Because I know your disc wasn't really working. Yeah. But I would give it an A+ because it's really entertaining. The acting is good. The music is good. Story is good. Like everything, I think was pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, I give it an A+. Like I said, there were some moments where I thought the CG was a bit dated, but it's nothing. It would be like criticizing an '80s movie because of the effects, and it's like, well, it was in the '80s. That was the best
technology.
Yeah, so I can't really hold that against the movie, other than a few of the CG scenes were a bit dated for me, but you know, the costumes, the practical effects, like everything else holds up very well.
Yeah.
And like I said, the acting, the story, the acting, the emotion, the music, like everything is just so great. Everything is great.
And the historical accuracy also.
Yeah, that's true.
I would give it. I'm definitely gonna rebuy this movie on Blu-ray, and I would give it an A. Like it's there's very few things wrong with the movie. Like everything is good. like all the acting.
Yeah, look at it. Justin A.
Justin A. Did? No, I'm joking.
I don't really remember anyone being like having any moments of bad acting in the movie.
No, there was
that actress that played Mercedes was like, damn.
The doctor,
the doctor, the captain, that actor.
I mean, even those roles that didn't mean anything. Like the guy that was stuttering, like he did look so. I don't know if he's really stuttering because he has that condition.
Well, I wouldn't say it didn't mean anything. Just like
he
was a minor character.
He was a very minor character, but he did so well.
He had like a whole scene where he was the main character. Yeah. And he did really it was pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, the torture scene. Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah.
So I guess that's our take on it, guys. This is, of course, once again we did this for Lalo Landon.
Our latest subscriber.
Thank you, Lando.
Tell your friends about us.
Yeah, tell them to follow us on Facebook, to follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Yeah, we're sorry we were butchering your name, but no, thanks. We do appreciate it, and we do actually, keep our word. Like, because I did mention to you we're gonna do this, and hopefully you liked our review. Leave us a comment in this one.
Yeah, and we will at some point review Devil's Backbone. At some point we will get to that.
If we can get a hold of it.
Yeah. And maybe you can send us a copy if you have one, Lando.
And if anyone else out there wants us to review any other horror movies, like just throw us a comment.
Yeah, we'll We'll be more than happy to oblige.
Mm-hmm.
So we're the Dudes of Horror. I'm Wormboy.
Damien.
And to it.
We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.